What's going on, everybody? Happy Friday, first and foremost. Exciting, fun week. A lot of different connectivity points, leveraging everything we do here at Profluence. Real quick, if this is your first time, my name's Scott Garber. We have Andrew Petkoff and Chad Eichten on the call, helping us keep the wheel spinning on this amazing ecosystem. Guys, we have built the Profluence ecosystem on 4 key pillars: education, access, support, and exposure. Today on our Friday calls, we like to bring in folks that are helping shape the industry so that we're able to connect a couple of those dots, right? Education and access, really. And so usually folks that sit in a finance position, an exited CEO role, folks that we can learn from that are sometimes harder to get in front of. And Ryan, maybe that's our tee up for you to go ahead and introduce yourself, and we're going to dive right into to this Friday call. Before you introduce yourself, the format is we're going to go 15 minutes. Q&A is going to follow after. So as Ryan's going through his story, if you guys have questions, comments, please drop them in the message. We'll be able to pull you on. We're going to leave ample time to start to connect the dots and really make something fun out of this hour. Ryan, my man, welcome. Super excited. Let's just kick things off. Give the context to who you are and sort of your journey in the sports space.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. It's great to meet everybody and to be on with you. My name is Ryan Petkoff. I am currently the founder of Petkoff Strategies, a consulting firm where I work with pro teams, leagues, and early stage sports tech. And my previous life, I spent 19 seasons in professional sports with an NFL and MLS background. I left as the top executive at Hunt Sports Group, which is the parent company to the Kansas City Chiefs of the NFL and FC Dallas in Major League Soccer. I started there in 2006 when I was 24 and very green. At the time, the Hunts owned 3 MLS teams and the Chiefs, and they have a stake in the Chicago Bulls. And so over the course of the next 2 decades, I was a big part of us turning those teams around. And I got to do probably 11 different jobs in that time, ranging from PR, communications, marketing, branding, business strategy. I launched the global markets program at the Chiefs. So we were one of the leaders in going to international expansion with the club model that the league rolled out 3 or 4 years ago. And so I was there from 2 and 14, and they're flying airplanes over the stadium, telling the owner to fire the general manager, to leaving after the 3rd Super Bowl. So I got to do a lot of really cool stuff in between, mainly on the business side. But one of the roles I had was kind of bridging the business and football sides. Got a lot of really good experience. And after my wife and I had our daughter and we won the 3rd Super Bowl, I was like, I want to get out there and do some other stuff. So for the last year, I've been doing that, working with a couple of teams, which I won't mention, and a few sports tech companies in the seed to Series C space. So yeah, excited to be on with you guys and look forward to the chat.
No, it's super cool, man. And I mean, look at, there's very few folks that can have 3 Super Bowl trophies behind them and, they're not replicas or fakes, right? Like, I mean, it's really cool. You've earned those. And, Ryan, I want to spend a little time, right? Like, I mean, the asset class of sports is growing faster than ever. We're watching new innovations on the tech side. We're watching new leagues, new teams pop up. As you reflect back on your tenure of, working alongside the Hunts, I'm curious, what has transpired in the market that you guys sort of saw coming? And where are some of the forks in the road where it's like, we never really saw it going this way, but ultimately it's evolved into what we have today? Just curious, some of the learnings as you reflect back on your time with the Hunt family.
Sure. It's a great question. And what I would classify the Hunt family as a very traditional, family when it comes to investments in professional sports. Certainly Lamar Hunt was the founder of the American Football League in the late early 1960s, and a maverick and an innovator for his time, right? But you flash forward 60 plus years later, and there's a set of traditions and things like that. So I wouldn't classify us as early adopter of tech or anything like that. However, it was, it's clear when it's clear that it's time to do that. So the Chiefs were early in the mobile ticketing game. We were early in international expansion. And I would say that we're a little bit, or have been historically, a little bit more wait and see. But globally, the sports space is a rocket ship right now, right? From the top levels in the pro leagues with institutional investment coming in and private equity, to the sports tech space where we all kind of live and breathe. I mean, we're seeing tremendous growth in that space and tremendous interest from some of the bigger incumbents that wasn't there 10 years ago. I think it's a function of sports really is one of the last things that brings people together. We're kind of divided, and that's not a political statement. It's just a reality statement. But there's a lot of unity around sports. There's a lot of eyeball unity around sports too. It's one of the last places where you can really hit a lot of targets, and people that are being innovative in that space are going to be rewarded.
Totally agree. And I think it's really neat, right? When you have the depth of what you guys have built there, Ryan, like, and you wearing so many different hats as you evolve through your career. One that I want to touch on, right? Within Profluence, and obviously you're a member, it. We have a ton of emerging leagues. We have a ton of emerging founders, right? That are looking to get the opportunity to pitch family offices, right? To get in front of some of the behemoths that are helping shape the space. I'm curious with you seeing so much come across your desk, put that hat back on for us, right? And like ultimately, what were some of the misnomers in the market, like as people would approach you? And then what were some of the ones that stuck out that, with you being sort of the linchpin of like, hey, we're going to push this through, or no, this isn't a good fit. What's some advice that you would give to these emerging founders that, could help as they're pitching?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's important to take a step back and think about the family office space just in general, right? If we go back to 1970, you would find it would be a hard time to try and find people that understood what a family office was, right? There was a few dozen. We're talking, I did a little research on it, 50 billion AUM. Right. Fast forward to today. I mean, some estimates have 15,000 family offices, conservative estimates, 10,000 family offices, and anywhere from 5 to 10 trillion. Right. So we've seen a huge ramp up in family offices. The good news is there's never been a better time in the history of the world to pitch a family office. Right. The bad news or the challenging news is, finding the right ones. And so, bridging back to what I said about the hunts being a little bit more traditional, they're probably not your safe round investors on something, right? They want to see a little bit more market traction. They may not have the appetite for, and I don't want to speak globally for them. I'm just saying from sitting in my chair for those years, it's more of a let's invest when they've proven it a little bit more, right? A little bit de-risk on the capital front. But there are huge pools of money out there, or small pools of money that are very aggressive that want to be there. To me, it's about finding the right partners in your network who have tentacles that reach broadly, right, to understand the family offices, and finding the right partner. Because if you have enough capital, you need to be investing in early stage. And if you're going to be investing in early stage, sports tech is a great spot, right? Particularly on the youth sports side, but sports tech and in emerging leagues, because there's a ton of upside, there's a ton of interest, and the right money wants to be in that space. The other thing I would say that is a real inefficiency that serves this group well is family office deal flow is not nearly what it is at the kind of bigger institutions or more established private equity shops, right? So shooting your shot and putting out some flyers and figuring out the ecosystem a little bit, who knows who and who's connected to what, that can serve you really well, because in a situation where there's low deal flow, you're a very compelling audience, right? So it's kind of a tried and true answer, but like shoot your shot and keep shooting a little bit, because there's a lot of folks out there and there's a lot of capital right now. The other thing I'd say on the family office piece, and the reason I think that it's rising, people like to talk about K-shaped economy or wealth disparity. I'm not speaking to that. What I would say is there's been a huge rise in the appetite for alternatives, right? And so it used to be you only had a few options when it came to growing your wealth. And now there's a lot of vehicles that you can put stuff in. As people get more into alternatives, as they have over the last 25, 30 years, they need a diversity within those alternatives, right? So early stage and sports is more fun to invest in than your HVAC company, right? So if there's a little bit of capital out there that has an appetite for early stage and you've got an attractive idea, I think there's a lot of merit to it.
No, I mean, look there's so many nuggets that I think you just dropped there. And, there's a lot of people going after the same narrow scope of family offices, right? I think the reality is as the asset class continues to grow and expand, we're going to watch more appetite there. And there is this misnomer of there's this excessive deal flow. But like, I mean, with you guys having such positions in pro sports teams and hearing that from your side, I think that should be encouraging to all of our founders to be able to go ahead and continue to shoot shots, show up in that room, and really make sure that you're aligned with how family offices are actually deploying capital and what the return schedule is. I think that's one of the biggest gaps is like, is this a family office play? Is it a venture play? Like understanding sort of how the money behaves is really, really important. So I'm curious.
Can I jump in there with a couple of things? Because you're totally right.
Absolutely.
And any advice that I would give in this specific space is to go in on a fact-finding mission. Don't go in on a pitch. If you can do that, you're a lot better off, because it's going to be very easy for someone to tell you we don't do that. But it's very hard for someone to tell you we don't do that and just let the dead air happen. They may say, we don't do that, but I know these 3 people who do that, right? And you should meet them. Like, that's part of the deal. If you go in with a pitch and you're, I think that family offices are family offices for a reason, right? And so much of the business that gets done is based on deep relationships and networking. It's very off-putting to have a, super slick pitch, or it feels like we're on, pitch into Sequoia necessarily, that kind of vibe. It's a lot more, this is family money. And so building relationships, coffees, lunches, those type of things, to the extent that you can get that, to me, is the way to go. The second piece that I would say is you got to really know yourself and know your needs, right? So really knowing where you are as a company and what stage, and have a practical, we call it sources and uses a lot. When we do stadium projects, we have a table that says here are all the sources of funding and here's all the uses of funding. So knowing really well, like, hey, we just want to raise 5 million because we want to raise 5 million. That's not going to fly with a family office. But saying this capital gets us here, which can get us here, is very appetizing, right? So really knowing yourself and being able to say, here's what we need makes the investment feel more solid than, hey, be part of our round.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Quick call out here. If you guys have questions, be sure to drop them in the chat. We're going to start to turn the corner and open this up. So very free flowing on the back half of this call. Couple more questions for you, Ryan, and then we're going to get right into that. As you start to now transition from sitting in the family office chair for almost 2 decades to now, the commercial market that you're growing on your own. What has you most excited, sort of looking back at your learnings and like this wide aperture of where the space is going?
Yeah, it's a great question. We've talked about this a little bit. I think the youth sports market is unbelievably lucrative for the next 10 years. I mean, it's depending on estimates, we all get estimates, $40 billion industry that's completely inefficient and fragmented, right? And we're already seeing a lot of bigger, call them incumbents, trying to figure out what's the space, how do I play in the space? So I think that's has huge upside for the next 10, 20 years. And there's going to be a handful of people who really capture big chunks of it, but there's going to be a lot of smaller kind of folks that can make inroads there too. So it's a little bit like the Wild West, but it's really great. And the demand is sticky because parents and their kids, like that, the last thing that they will make a cut on discretionary income is kids, right? So there's a lot of opportunity there. And the other thing I think is anything that is very fan focused, right? When we talk about sports tech, a lot of times it's some of the stuff in the performance space, and that's great. Like there's been a huge lift in that. I think anything that brings more of a one-to-one fan focus, and that can be on the marketing side, that can be on the customer service side, that can be on the in-stadium experience, but one-to-one fan marketing is going to be a huge upside. The NFL is spending a ton of time and a ton of resources trying to get there, right? Because now as consumers, we expect that. We expect the algorithm to talk to us the way we want to talk to, the LLMs to talk to us the way that we've trained them. One-to-one interactions is where the future of sports marketing is going. It's already there, but tech that supports that makes that easier, takes away some friction points in that, is going to have a lot of upside.
Super cool. And I totally agree with you. And I'm going to piggyback and just say, and you guys, did this when you were with the Chiefs, it's the global expansion of it. I think sometimes we become so tunnel visioned and only building in the Western world. As I continue to expand my horizons, you realize that we've done an incredibly good job at commercializing sport. And, I was in Ireland for the NFL game, and it was a Steelers-Vikings game, but you would have thought the Chiefs were the home team there. And I think it's really interesting when you start to think about what the global footprint of taking our, sort of Western ideas around sport and being able to expand them around the world. Tremendous upside there. And, again, I had no clue that you guys were intertwined, but it was really cool going over there and experiencing it. Sort of last question from my side, and then I'm going to bring Ruby in and we'll open this thing up. Ryan, you now sit in a really cool position. You're helping some, community members, which is how we met. What ultimately makes you say yes to a project? Now that you don't come just as Ryan, you have a long tail of a network of expertise, a playbook. What do you look for in a builder that says, hey, I'm willing to go all in on what you're doing?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So I like to work with just a handful of clients at a time so I can dive deep, right? One of the value propositions that I have, or a place where I can really add value, is when you're seed to Series C, you can't afford to hire 4 or 5 people, right? You just can't. So I can wear multiple hats, whether that's a CMO hat, strategy, helping with the capital raise and capital raise story, comms, things like that. So first of all, I look for that where there's a need where I can fill multiple roles. And I take calls with anybody, because I like people and I like to hear what people are doing. And I typically start by saying, hey, what are the 2 or 3 problems that are keeping you up at night? Right? Because if you're a founder, it's probably not limited to 2 or 3 because you're doing a million things at once. But the 2 or 3 problems that keep you up at night are the areas of highest and best need, right? So I'm just very honest with people. And if I'm a good candidate to help you solve those problems, then I'm like, hey, let's keep talking. If I'm not, I'm like, that's not me. So I try to, the goal of doing it is to really work well with the handful that I work with. And then if I can help somebody, I'm just going to help them, right? But that's kind of what I get excited about, is driving deep and solving those big problems. And then, let's move on to the next one.
And I wanted to be very intentional in asking that question because not all advisors are created equal. Not all consultants are created equal, right? And so I think, it goes back to sort of the beginning of the conversation where it's, depending and knowing where your business is at each phase of the journey should really, you become on offense when starting to figure out who you bring into your sphere of influence. And, as I get to know Ryan, like there's a lot of folks that can see the vanity, but if the timing's not aligned, then it's just not going to be a good fit. And so I think it's really interesting as we continue to watch these incredible humans splinter off from family offices, institutional, endemic brands that we want to attach to our ecosystem. I think there has to be precision with how we're going to go ahead or strategy on how we're going to use these, incredible people, or it's just vanity for vanity's sake, right? This is to me one of the most impactful things that we do, right? It's great to meet round robin a bunch of our different members. I mean, we said it at the top of the call and we'll reinforce it right now. Folks like Ryan are sought after through LinkedIn, through email, reach out. It's incredibly challenging to try and get intentional time with the right folks. And so kudos for everybody showing up here today. The magic is in the follow-up. The magic is in building the relationships. It's not just showing up and throwing up, right? It's taking the time to get to know people, learn about their families, be there with intention. And I think I'll leave us with this is like we're at the early innings of a really exciting time that sports is going to go through, right? So we don't have to solve it all today, right? So I encourage everybody to get back into the app, go on the web browser, continue to build relationships with folks like Ryan that are kind enough to give us not only his time, but his mind share, which is the invaluable piece of this, and use it and do something with it, right? I think one of our guiding principles is give 2, take 1. And I'm going to encourage everybody to take that into the weekend. Figure out how you can be of value, how you can leverage your network to continue to add value to what Ryan's doing to his clients like Jeff. And all of a sudden, you're going to start to watch that grease wheel really start to go ahead and go to work for you. Ryan, that's my 2 cents, man.
Yeah, well, thanks, Scott. And this has been great. It's been really fun for me to talk to this group, and it's been an honor. I've said this a few times kind of over the last year. I don't think there's ever been a better time in the history of the world to build something, right? It is a really, really unique time and a really exciting time. There's also a lot of people that want to be negative, right? And And I'm encouraged when I get around a group of builders like this, right? That are saying, I am going forward no matter what. So it's very encouraging and inspiring to me. I appreciate you guys making the time, and it's great to connect.
If you feel so inclined, drop your insights on LinkedIn, drop your insights on the Profluence app, continue to spread the word. And just remember, guys, we're all just one introduction from our whole life changing. So continue to lead through this world with curiosity, and I promise you good things will happen. Ryan, my man, many more of these to come. And as always, y'all could have been anywhere in the world, but you chose to be here. And for that, we really appreciate you guys. Hope everyone has a great weekend. We'll talk soon. See everybody.